We also have Sheikh Abdullah Oduro, who is the head of Convert Resources and a
Joining
fellow.
us today with fellow Ayaki Institute, Sheikh Abdullah Oduro.
If I was afraid of being judged, I wouldn't have become a Muslim. I came into Islam through hip hop.
Through music. Now, I'm a bit confused in the part. Were you singing? Were you like a singer?
My lifestyle before Islam, I was a pharmacist.
Oh, okay.
Pharmacist.
Interesting.
Right, to a certain level.
Did you say Andrew Tate is toxic?
Who are you to say that masculinity is toxic?
9/11 happens. How does that change your life?
And every time I come out, there will be people protesting. And how much am I going to represent Islam?
Did you ever at one point think to yourself that you picked the wrong religion? How do we pronounce your name? I always ask the sheikhs, just in case we don't know how to pronounce it. Oduro?
Yeah. See, I don't know how to tell you to pronounce because it's going to have the Australian touch to it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be like, no. And you're going to be like, yeah, all right, this is all I got. You know what I'm saying?
So, what is it?
Oduro.
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 Yeah, okay, yeah.
Oduro.
Oh, we
Yeah,
got
there you
that.
It's not too hard.
Yeah.
Is that your full name? Abdullah Oduro?
Yep.
Nothing in between?
Habib, but it's hardly ever mentioned.
Habib.
Yeah.
Habib.
Yeah,
Okay.
Abdullah Habib Oduro.
Okay.
It's the name I've been given, but you know.
Sheikh, I have to say that you're the most jacked sheikh I've seen in my life.
Oh man, I don't know if this shirt's gonna
Do you like give dawah while doing dumbbells or something? What's
give
going on?
dawah doing dumbbells. Interesting. Yeah, kind of yesterday we did literally with dumbbells doing dawah, and yeah, talking about masculinity while working out. It's part of the program that I have.
Yeah.
That I do with guys. Yeah, so alhamdulillah.
How long did it take to go from, was there a skinnier version of you, I'm assuming, and then to this version today? How many years is that?
Yeah, I mean, since I was young, I've always been involved in some type of physical activity. But then actually when I came back from Saudi Arabia is kind of when I took it to I got in the gym. A friend of mine just took me into the gym, and then I just got back into my old self, you know, just loving the physical exertion. Doesn't matter what it is. It just happened to be the gym. So I don't even realize how I look. It's a byproduct of what I love doing. Yeah.
How often do you go to the gym?
3-4 times a week.
3-4 times a week.
Yeah, 3-4 times a week.
Still quite a bit.
That's
Quite a bit, yeah.
It's very impressive.
I do probably like once a year, something like that.
I try 3 times a week, but again, I've got a PT on my case, pushing. So
Yeah, I mean, it's just you know, it's how you do it, you know, that can determine the output, right? And then
Yeah.
along with sleep and eating. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Sure, I also found out you live in Texas.
Yes, sir.
And outside world, Texas is known as this redneck country. Racist people. Is that a misconception? You feel safe there? You right?
look at the guy. Who's going to bother him? No one's going to bother him.
No. I mean, look, it's a big state. I mean, it's the second largest state in the U.S. I mean, California is the biggest, and you have Texas. So it's a huge state. So you have a lot of land there. In the rural areas, you'll find some people they may have a little cowboy-like attitude and way of thinking, like Bedu, right?
Yeah.
But in the cities, you won't find that. You're not going to find like redneck. You won't find like the cowboy effect, if you will. You'll find some racism, but it won't be as blatant, especially in the cities. You know, the cities is fairly diverse. So Houston is very diverse. I mean, people in the U.S., they know Houston as being one of the capitals for diversity in restaurants and food. I didn't know that till I left Houston. That is very diverse.
Okay.
And the diversity is shown throughout the cuisine there. Dallas, it's more demarcated north versus south. So you'll find diversity in the north, and we can even attribute that to the Muslim communities there, the diversity there somewhat. But in the south, it's a little more African American. Dawah is still taking on there's still more of I don't want to say challenge, but more of an opportunity to articulate Islam and religiosity in those areas. So,
You said the cowboy side of Texas is a bit racist against Muslims, people of color. Which one is it? Mexicans?
all three.
All three. Wow.
Yeah. And you know, when Trump came in, it was like gave them a breath of fresh air, right? You know, he
Freedom.
came in and it was like, you know, Mexicans and, you know, building the wall and, you know, whether the wall is something locally from Mexico or from the South or from an international standpoint, not letting people back in from the Muslim countries, you know, so that was an effect that had, you know, I guess you could say a negative impact on Islam and Muslims and how they would
Did
view.
it spike though? Like, was it worse than what we initially thought? Because in Australia, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it kind of spiked because it gave those that had that internal reservation of, let's say, non-Americans invading the American lifestyle.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That, and you find that in every
Yeah.
place, right? In every locality. No, this is our land.
Yeah.
You're coming to our land. Okay, let's define our. And America's kind of interesting because it's like, okay, whose land is it? I mean, kind of like the Aboriginals here,
Yeah.
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 somewhat. You find that with the African Americans and who is American originally, right?
Mm.
So if we say the Native Americans versus the African American was brought here.
Yeah.
We didn't want to come here. We were coming for free labor. So our history is something that, you know, it's because of quote unquote you, but not directly the white man per se.
Yeah.
But you could say, okay, the Spanish, you know, so that it could go back to that. Who is even the American? Who has right over this country?
Mm.
We would all agree the Native Americans were here first, but their existence and how active they are in owning that term of being American and dropping the native, right? So that kind of opens the whole conversation. But then when we're talking just generally of black people, right, and African Americans, and saying, okay, well, you know, we have a right here. And you find that, you know, with the critical race theory and, you know, okay, it's important for that to be understood. And as I say, we want our 40 acres and a mule. Have you ever heard about what they call the, slipping my mind, reparations,
Yeah.
right? So do we still deserve reparations, right? It opens a whole can of worms. If we get reparations, do we have enough discipline to even not spend
to
cash
manage
that
that.
40 acres into the
Yeah.
pawn shop and then go back? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a lot of conversation. But with the you know, Caucasian or white man redneck, you will find there is still that level of prejudice there and preservationist type of attitude. But you won't find it in the States, with places where it's fairly diverse.
Yeah.
Mm.
So since Trump left, has it improved?
You even have to define improved, right? Because those people that that came out and pro-Trump, it's not like they said, okay, Trump left,
that's
I'm
true
not
as well.
racist anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true as well. Yeah.
You know, I've been enlightened by no. I mean, they stormed the White House. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not going to just go away.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You know, so it shows a sentiment that's there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's just in a lot of people. It's just they need the right person to, I guess, back him, because Trump was just all chaos.
And people know, even those that haven't traveled, they know that America, quote unquote, economically and dare I say socially, is the cream of the crop of the world.
Mm.
It can be argued, right? But they know that. So for people to come to my home and to take my dare I say credibility and my resources, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So for all the racism, let's use Texas for example, a lot of racism towards Muslims, even in the world, it's a lot of racism towards Muslims. How did you be like, you know what, I'm going to pursue Islam? Because right now, you look at the world, there's a lot of negative words being thrown at Islam. So how does it encourage people to pursue Islam? So what made you pursue Islam? What's that story there?
Yeah, I mean, subhanAllah, I to be fair, I embraced Islam pre 9/11.
Yeah.
So
It was
Islam,
97, right?
97.
Yeah,
right,
2 days, 2 years after I was born. So I was 2 years old when I became a
MashaAllah,
Muslim.
man. You make sure the gray is. Y'all have the color hue. Or let's just block it right here. Okay, where's it? Okay, what were you saying again? No, man. I mean, look, mine was pre 9/11.
Yeah.
So there was not a lot of Islamophobia.
Okay, right.
Not even in the media. It was
Yeah.
opposite, actually. You know, it was freedom fighters as opposed to, you know, terrorists.
Right.
Right? So for me, I came into Islam through hip hop, through music.
Okay.
Right? That's how I came into Islam. And then when I learned more about it, it made so much sense to me. But still, I mean, me converting to Islam or reverting, whatever the case, whatever you want to use it, in my household, it was still something that was not foreign, but it wasn't accepted in my house because my name was Abdul before I became Muslim. My sister's name that passed away is Sakina. My brother's name is Rashid. I'm the oldest.
Okay.
So that's from the Ghanaian heritage. Is that where it comes from?
Yes and no. So when you look at the Ghanaian heritage, you have we're about 19, roughly 20% Muslim in that country. The camaraderie between Muslims and Christians is very good.
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhat of a stable country. Now speaking, the economy is kind of fluctuating. It's kind of tricky and challenging. But you'll find the Islamic influence in the north, from the north, Mali, But from the south, you have the Gold Coast. I mean, there's the transatlantic slave trade. They had something, unfortunately, kind of played a part in it. The Ashanti tribe, from the south, and the British influence. So you'll find a lot of Christians, particularly in the capital of Accra. But north in Kumasi, which is really the markaz and the capital of Ghanaian, dare we say, the preservation of the Ghanaian culture started from Kumasi. The Muslims really have that on lock, quote unquote. So me becoming Muslim was not foreign to my parents, but it was not the predominant culture, commonplace for two Christians from Accra, right? So it was something that was kind of, the Christian West Africans, kind of like how you see Lebanese West Africans.
Yeah.
Mm.
Very hard. Like, I'm talking about, again, not Lebanese West Africans. The Christian West Africans, like the Lebanese Christians.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
When in regards to Islam.
Mm-hmm.
So like if a Lebanese Christian, like the other day, a couple of days ago, a brother became Muslim and he's Lebanese. And he's like, I don't know how my family's gonna, it's gonna be. And I met Lebanese Christians as well, because they've had an interaction, and dare I say, unhealthy interaction with Muslims. Islam is looked at the same way. So when someone is a Muslim, one of the things that I've encountered is like, you don't know the real Islam.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like you become Muslim, you don't really know Islam. I know Islam. I've been in, So it wasn't that intense with my parents, but it was like, why? You know what I'm saying? So when I got accepted to the University of Medina, my mother went to go and study in biblical college at the same time.
Okay.
So she's like a deaconess now.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't accepted in the beginning, but I think ultimately because of the message of Islam. Actually, when I started to become Muslim is when I started to learn more about Christianity.
Right.
And just the concept of, God being a man, and then asking my forgiveness from the man who was God, who died on the cross and asked himself, why hast thou forsaken me? And then after that, me naturally being a sinner, turning towards the symbolization, the blood of Jesus being a symbol of forgiveness, was difficult concept to embrace.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at Islam, creator, creation. He created you with a GPS, with a motherboard called the Fitra, which all of creation has, which you already acknowledge. Just acknowledge it, and he's created a framework for you. And that framework has been given by different individuals throughout the course of history in a chronological order. And that's their primary mission. They don't want anything. They're just calling you back to worship God and be sincere towards him. The God that you already feel inside, that has control of all things, that created all things and can easily take it away. That seemed much more simple to me.
Mm.
And what was also intriguing is that it was made out to be very complex, barbaric, violent, backward. But I said to myself, no, there's something, as I would say, what part of the game is this? Like, nah, there's something wrong with this. I ain't, And then I looked further into it, and then I saw that, no, Islam is the answer.
Because I was going to ask, because, we're both born Muslim, so we could never know how Islam looks on the outside.
From the outside looking
right?
in. Yeah.
So how did, you said, look barbaric, blah, blah, everyone says that. How did Islam look for you on the outside before you became a Muslim?
See, and that's another thing. So you'll find a lot of, remember the revolution in Iran?
Yes.
Back in the 80s?
Yeah.
That attracted, I don't know if you know, it attracted a lot of African Americans towards
Okay.
Islam. Shia Islam, though.
Okay.
Right? Because of that revolutionary, strong, uncompromising, I guess you could say very robust religion. And that's kind of using the name Andrew Tate. I mean, that's one of the things that that attracted him and many to Islam, right? Is because it's uncompromising, unapologetic with their faith don't care what you say. I don't care what you say, but I respect you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to compromise who I am and what I believe.
Mm.
It's very attractive. So that was attractive at that time because it was like, look, we are upholding justice and we are going against the status quo, right? So for me as a non-Muslim, hearing about Islam, again, I heard about it through hip hop, but it was slightly different.
Okay.
You know, it was more of the Nation of Islam via 5%er.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with them, 5%ers, Nation of Islam. So basically, those that may know Wu-Tang Clan,
Yeah.
Nas, Eric B. and Rakim, Poor Righteous Teachers. You know, it was the word Islam was pushed out there, but it was with a different type of faith. But what was taken from that was strength, honor, integrity. Honor could be argument. You could argue back and forth, but integrity. I don't want to say masculinity, and taking the importance of being masculine, like intentional with being masculine, with their understanding of masculinity.
Yeah.
Right. So that is what was attractive to me, and then that's how I saw
Yeah.
the non-Muslims at that time.
You said through music. Now I'm a bit confused in the part. Were you singing? Are you like a singer? You
No,
what's going
hip-hop.
on? Okay.
So
Were
you follow
were
like
you a
Tupac or
singer, or
something?
do you through music you just listen to music and you found Islam? Explain that part.
Gymnastics. You're not familiar with gymnastics? Hip hop. You know.
No.
I had him going, man.
exactly.
I should have kept a straight face. Usually when I'm talking to parents,
Oh,
I'm like,
you could've-
hip hop. Gymnastics. If you see gymnastics, you have the straight face, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, y'all have no idea what your kids are listening to. No idea. This is the problem. Right?
So through hip hop, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Were you singing, or like that's the
No,
part
no,
I'm
no,
trying
no,
to
I was a lyricist.
uncover?
I was a lyricist, so I used to rhyme like a rapper.
Oh, right,
rapper, yeah.
right. Can you? Do you still have it? Can you? Still
Oh
do
no,
it?
that's back in the day. But I mean, the rhyming always is there. I mean,
No.
my father was a singer in a band, so
Oh, right.
the whole poetry and music and art—that's my life.
It's in your blood.
Like, well, that's why when you said out of interest and you mentioned it from two angles, I was like, that's sexy, right? That's it. That's hot. You know what I'm saying? That's hot. Yeah. Like even in the email, I saw ooh interest. I'm like, is that intentional? Ooh interest. Ooh interested. Oh wow. I was like,
That's one way of looking at it.
That's pretty
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll use that. We'll use
art.
that.
Art recognizes art, man.
Never thought of that one.
Any particular hip hop artists that you sort of gravitated to early days, or you got great sort of inspiration from?
Nas, Biggie, Exhibit, Poor Righteous Teachers, Gangstar, Tupac.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the ones I gravitated towards. Like Nas was my favorite probably of all time.
So as a follow-on to that, then, how then do you sort of separate between some of the messaging or the instruction in a way that comes through lyrics in hip hop that doesn't align with Islam? Because there is a lot that's propagated through that channel that is completely anti-Islamic.
Yeah.
So, for example, when someone hears a sheikh like yourself talking about how they took inspiration from rap and hip hop and lyrics, and that channeled them towards Islam, that in a way says, well, my kids should be listening to rap, and if whatever messaging they receive through that's going to be the complete opposite of what Islam propagates. How do we balance the two?
Yeah, so when the main thing that, like, for instance, there was certain aspects about strength, particularly through hip hop. Like, this joker messes with you, you know what you have to do, right? Always packing something because people want to test you. If you're in a particular type of lifestyle that they would talk about and indirectly propagate, okay, that's where we relate. Because my lifestyle before Islam, a pharmacist.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. And to a certain level, right? So, okay, a lot of these hip hop artists were pharmacists.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was like, okay, I relate. Okay, when he, for instance, talk about, there's one thing, I can't remember. There was one thing that Nas said in one of his albums at the very beginning. It was his second album. I think it was called It Was Written.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he said, can't remember. But what is it? I can't even remember, man. It was basically, what is it? Lifestyle something 23 Lexus. I can't even remember. It just slipped my mind. But it was one song where he kind of sums up Lexergit the minimum ill sex adrenaline party with villains. Something.
Okay.
You know, he's talking about his Lexus and his rims and how he's sending threats to people. Yeah. And he, you know, all this kind of lifestyle, you know, that he's talking about, it's something that we can relate to. And the fact that it's relatable makes it easy, you know, so that made it easy and it permeated well. So there's Islam came in that. But then when I started to learn about Islam from, you know, people that I used to rap battle with, and they were Sunni Muslim, that's what was kind of conflicting to me. It was like, okay, we're listening, and these Muslims, they listen to this stuff, right? So it was like, okay, we're listening to this. I'll be like, yo, arm, leg, arm, head, that's an acronym for Allah? We don't believe that, right? Nah, that's shirk. What's shirk? That's like saying that God is like a human being. Then why are we listening to this stuff, bro? So that's when it was like, we as human beings, even though we're Muslims, we still make mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm trying to be the best. And then I met some people that knew some of these artists, and it was like, okay, the guys I looked up to, not looked up to, but I would look to them to kind of express my reality over tracks. They have their mistakes too. And that made Islam more interesting to me because I don't rely on anyone. My role model is not ultimately not this person, especially as a man, right? I don't rely on anybody. I rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's the one that has sent people. And those people are the people that I try my best to be like. So when I looked at that, it was a litmus test. It was like, that was a yardstick. Okay, this person, fine. What is he in relation to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What is Nas? What is Eric B. Rakim? Okay, some of them say that man is God. Okay, that's out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? When I hear, you know, there was one track at the end of Wu-Tang called The North Star, you know, and it was talking about, you know, certain shirky aspects. And you have one called Bible called Master Priest, I think his name was. You know, basic instructions before leaving Earth. That was the acronym, right? So some of those things you agree with, but it's like, yeah, okay. Black man is not God, right? He's not. He's divine. All of human being is divine. But yeah, so I think it was after learning my deen and voluntarily understanding the first pillar of Islam, it was more of a guiding light for me. Like I would weigh it against, hold on. Nah, we don't do that to women. No. No, I don't do that to. No. Islam doesn't agree with that. The woman is the queen. Yeah, she's not my earth, as you see 5%ers say, but the concept of my earth being that I take care of her, and she's the one that we have a son together, or whatever the case may be. We agree with that, but the ultimate creed on where it goes back to, that's where the problem lies.
Yeah. I feel like you have a lot of stories in you.
Yeah.
Pharmacist, you know,
Yeah.
hip hop, came
I love
sheikh. It's amazing how Allah could just give you hidayah like out of the blue. It's just crazy. Like no matter what
Yeah.
you're doing. It's
I mean,
crazy.
I literally heard about the oneness of God at that moment in the hood, man. I mean, amongst these guys, and it
Yeah.
was over.
I wanna ask, do you remember? I'm sure you remember, but can you share the story of where you gave your shahada, and you know who helped you give it, or that story there?
Say it again. Go ahead.
The story of you giving the shahada. Take us back to that moment.
Oh, when I took my shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I initially, it was about a 2-week period, man, that I was I don't want to use the word cope. I was connecting with myself in regards to the reality of Islam and my natural inclination. What do I mean by that? When I heard this message from the brothers all together, we're in their apartment or whatever, and they started to say, you know, I said, okay, what happens when martial law happens or the Illuminati? They said it's all in the hands of Allah. Allah, man, I heard these rappers talking about. So Allah is, you know, man? Nah, man, Allah is not a man. Allah is not Fard Muhammad. The Nation of Islam is saying it's not true. We don't believe that. We believe that Allah is the creator of the heavens and the earth. And the more I'm hearing it, I was like, man, I already believe this stuff. What's so new about it? I remember I used to say, what's so new about it? Why do you have to put a name to it? Right? And then when they said Muhammad, I'm like, okay, what does he want? I knew it was something. Muhammad wants something from me. I knew it. Everybody wants something.
Mm.
I was like, no, he doesn't want anything. La nuridu minkum jaza'an wa la shukura. You know, we don't want anything. There's a lot of mentions in the Quran. We don't want from any reward, nor thanks from you. Verily, we just want to call you. They just want to call you to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. They want you to come back to your Creator. So after they told me about this, I met someone, and he gave me a VHS tape. I think this is a sequence. Yeah, I met someone. He gave me a VHS tape. I put the tape in. I was at my DJ's house, and it was Khalid Yassin,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a lecture called "The Purpose of Life," and that just like, but what do you? In my mind, like I had that thing memorized. Like there were certain things he said about, you know, the alteration. If you had a suit and you really like that suit, you don't have to throw it away. Your love of a God, your attachment to Jesus Christ. You don't just throw it away. You hold on to that, but you make alterations to where you know the truth has been revealed to you. That's exactly how he said it, right? That's all. And then when he said that's all, he made Islam seem simple and non-foreign and not too distant from Christianity, from an aspect that was human. So the love that you have of God, the Creator, Father, that some may assume, in Christianity, don't throw that away. Just make alterations. God is who he is, but he's not a man, bro. You know? So that was like, man, it's simple and pure and totally different. And at the same time, very different than Christianity, right? So that I saw that tape, and for about a week or two, I was like, man, I got to do something about this, man. I can't just take this as like divine knowledge and be like educated. You know, yes, Muhammad was a reformer. Nah, man. I feel that there's something. It's interesting. I feel that there's something. I never said it like this, but it's interesting. I feel that there's something wrong, but there's something right.
Yeah.
Or I feel that there's something wrong because there is something right. And I have to do something about it. That weekend we went to what was called a Kappa Beach party. And that's like, those that know something called a freaknik. Like that's the real, you don't want to type that up on Google.
It's record on and type it up.
Yeah, well, young guys and people just type Tawheed. Tawheed.
We'll bleep that out.
So yeah, that is like a beach party. And I mean, khalas, you already know what that is. But I went with these guys. I used to hang around them. They were like twins, and they used to take prescriptions from me. So I used to go to the beach with them, and we went to the beach.
I love the references.
Yeah, write prescriptions, and they would take. So we used to we went to this beach party, and I remember I said, I'm just gonna see like people and how they act. Wallahi, I walked around the beach, and I'm looking, and then, you know, the twins were going, hey man, come on, we're in a hotel room, blah, blah, blah. In the background you hear stuff, and I'm walking, I'm like, look at these people, yeah, just look at what's going on, look how they're acting. Is this what life is all about?
Yeah.
Like, I prepare my week to come to this for what? Right? And I remember I was wearing like khaki shorts, a khaki shirt open, black, like a tank top inside, and I'm walking and the wind is blowing, just so beautiful. It's on the coast, on the sea in Galveston. And I'm like, man, life, look at all of this. We're sitting here heedless to this beautiful creation and manifestation of it to do what God doesn't want. Like, that doesn't mean, I got to make it. Something's wrong, but something's right.
Yeah.
And then that week, like the next week, I went to a small mosque, and I went to the Imam, and I embraced Islam there. And it was the beginning of a whole new journey.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, this is pre-September 11.
Yes.
Then 9/11 happens. How does that change your life?
Well, I mean, subhanAllah, you know, throughout that time, it was 1990, I think it was 1996, I embraced Islam in 97. I ended up going to make Hajj, I think in 1998, if I'm not mistaken. And I got lost in Mina. Now, Mina, you know, Mina's just a whole bunch of tents. This is back then. There was no, you know, it wasn't that organized. So I got lost. I couldn't understand Arabic. And I'm holding someone that's probably twice my size. and he had like rash like on his feet, blisters. So I had to walk around with him, holding him, looking, pantomiming, like we didn't know what to exactly say because we couldn't speak Arabic. I remember when I said to myself, we finally found our tent. We stumbled. We saw someone walking. Like, hey, where's our tent? And we just followed him, and our tent was like, we passed that tent up so many times, right? I said, I'm gonna learn Arabic, man. When I went back to Houston, I met with the Imam. There was an Imam from Nigeria, studied Arabic with him, and I applied for the University of Medina. I got accepted, and that was in 1999. Came home one summer. When I came back, after coming back from Houston, I remember the second night that I got back to Medina, I was in the university, and I went to call a friend of mine that lived in Houston, just to let them know I made it, whatever. And the wife was like, you didn't hear? I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, the Twin Towers. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'll never forget this. She was like, I can't be talking to you that much. My husband's not here. But look, just something happened except, the Twin Towers in New York just got, I'm like, what? And that's when I found it. So I just arrived like 2 or something days before in Medina. So I wasn't in America at the onset of September 11th. I was in Saudi Arabia. My flight was like September 9th or something like that. Yeah, so
and then you went back to America, and then racism's
It's a different place, I'm assuming.
it was a different place. I mean, I remember the husband of this sister, I'll never forget. He got home because he left and he went to go check on the Imam's family. He went to go check on people. So when he got home, I think I talked to him a couple days later. Because he was like, man, I got to call you back. I got to do this. So I talked to him a couple days. I said, how are things going? He said, man, I'll never forget. He said, man, people of knowledge are shaving their beards. People of sisters are taking their hijabs off.
Jeez.
I said, really? I've never heard anything like that, right? I mean, I've heard from brothers from different parts of the world, like Russia. I had some neighbors from Russia. They're like, when we go back, we have to, certain parts of Egypt, they're like, when we go back, we have to, because there's going to be problems if we look religious. So that was what that's what I got. So when I came back in the summer, I didn't really feel it myself as I did after I graduated many years later, which was very interesting now that I think about it. Because I was remember there was the Area 51 mosque, they were trying to build them. I was over there learning how to teach English to try to get back to Saudi Arabia, and I would pray Asr over there. And every time I'd come out, it would be people protesting and, people for, people against. And that was an interesting experience.
That must have been chaos because, for people to take off their hijabs, cut their beards, I mean, interesting times.
It was a final frontier for a lot of Muslims. It's like, okay, how much am I going to represent Islam? But, how much, what's the level of harm that I see that could take place if I was to.
Did you ever think at one point, damn, I picked the wrong religion?
Say again?
Did you ever at one point think to yourself that you picked the wrong religion?
No, never, man.
No,
not at all. Because that first pillar of Islam was so strong, and I knew that this type of stuff would come, and hence that was one of the main attractions to me, right? Like strength through this.
Yeah. So you're also married, right?
Yes.
I wanted to know, did you get married after you converted?
Yes.
So how many years after was it?
4 years.
4 years.
5 years. 2003. Yeah, 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you marry a revert?
No, my wife was actually born and raised in Medina.
Okay, so Saudi Arabian.
No. Sudani.
Okay.
Like Chadian actually.
Okay.
But born and raised in Saudi. So her father came and stayed.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Now, because you're into a lot of masculinity, is that how we pronounce it, Mazza? You usually connect
Masculinity, yes.
Masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Do you wear the pants in the relationship?
Do I wear the pants in the relationship? Yes. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
What would you say to the brothers that don't wear the pants in the relationship?
Take off the dress first. And put something on. Just don't be naked, man, because that's day 2. You know what I'm saying?
Did not expect that response. I like that one.
I mean, some guys were forced to put on the dress. Putting on the dress will maintain harmony in the house.
Yeah.
And some are just naked. They don't even know what to wear, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, look. I think it's important for men to embody to understand what masculinity is and where it emerges from.
Yeah.
And then do their best to be their best in that realm of life.
Could you define that for us? In an Islamic context, in today's world, what's masculinity for a Muslim man?
I think masculinity is firstly understanding your purpose of life via recognition of Allah, recognition of their creator, and the framework that he has set for you. So when you do that, by default, you will be masculine.
Okay.
And feminine. Because establishing that voluntarily wanting to worship Allah through the framework that he has provided for you, that is the answer. I mean, that's Islam. And Islam is a way of life. And you manifest that way of life by practicing it. When practicing it is by implementing, following the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, in what he did, said, and approved. That by default, and this is very important, organically, by default, naturally, you will live out your masculinity and femininity because it's from Allah. He's given us this fitrah. So naturally, when we nourish the fitrah with the sharia, we will live in a way that he wants us to live. We will be happy, we will flourish, marriage will be harmonious. I mean, that's just saying it from a theoretical perspective, but the application of it, you're going to make mistakes. As long as your anchor is that and you resort to that, that's how you maintain your masculinity. So from it is maintaining a frame, intentionally valuing strength, channeling, acknowledging your anger, channeling it, acknowledging your emotions, channeling it. Well, anger is part of the emotion. Understanding how to keep yourself in line, how to stay in your place, and understanding how she needs to stay in her place. Knowing that there is a place, right? And having integrity and being unapologetic about all of that because it is from a framework that is holy, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
I have to ask this. You said that you should channel your anger as opposed to suppress your anger. So in today's world, again, from my lay perspective,
Exactly.
oftentimes we're taught as men to, you have a greater propensity to get angry than women do. The way to cope with your anger is to suppress it.
Right.
You're saying channel it. Practically, how do we do that?
Right. So, long story short, physical activity, exercise, movement.
Okay.
And expressing it vocally through the exercise. Sometimes it may take therapy in the beginning. So it may take sitting with a therapist, sitting with your father, sitting with a male or a group of males that quote unquote give a damn about you. That's very important. Like we as Muslims, we don't have retreats, male retreats. This is important, man. Men need to know how to reach out to men. This is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Youth need to know how to come up to men and explain their problems and talk to them. Ma'iz came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, look, I made zina. I had illicit sexual intercourse with someone. Like he came to the Prophet ﷺ. Firstly, he felt safe enough to do it. Right? And the Prophet ﷺ was his OG, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? You know, he was the Prophet. And then the Prophet ﷺ was merciful to him. So all these pillars and components, we have to realize they were around him. So the hadith that we read, there is a rawi, there is a narrator. These narrators were young. So the Prophet ﷺ made it an intention to be around these young men. So creating a system to where older men are around younger men is very important. Instead of when we go to the masjid, we tell Ruh, go play with the young kids over there. It should be come and sit with us. And they listen to how we talk. Hey, Abdullah bin Umar, when he would hear, the companions talk, Umar bin Khattab would let him sit sometime. Remember when Abdullah bin Umar, there was a question asked by the Prophet, he knew the answer, but he didn't want to say it. And then when they left, Umar bin Khattab was like, man, I wish you would have said the answer. It would have made me so happy. Abdullah bin Umar was sitting with them. I think we as Muslims need to understand there's a concept called rites of passage.
Yeah.
It's important that Muslims, men and women, know what that even is, what that means, and then asks the question, how do we implement that within our faith intentionally?
Yeah.
Because with our cultures, we have it naturally. Every culture is going to say, oh yeah, we used to do this in our country, but then now as Muslims, what do we do when it comes to our 16, 17, or 18-year-old boy that needs to learn what it means to be a man? And we don't sit with them as a father, nor do we sit with them as fathers and uncles once a Sunday, once every month. You know, when we drink shai at the masjid, we drink tea at the masjid, we should tell the young shabab to come and sit down, have a conversation with them, right? This type of stuff is huge, man. And it's a pillar for their development as men.
Yeah.
So definitely,
So
I think
when we're angry, we go to the gym.
Yeah, so when we're angry, we learn how to channel that anger through physical fitness, through physical exertion, and then without denying the importance of emotional intelligence, if you will, to those that are licensed to do so, or those that care about you. Yeah, your close companion.
Sheikh, sir, are you angry 3-4 times a week?
Man, I'm not even angry anymore. Like, I don't even really get angry
Is that
anymore.
why you buff so much? You're angry all the time?
Nah. I just love the pump. I love the movement, man. Like if there's any stress, it's let out through that, right?
Yeah.
So if there's any, but I just love the movement, and I'm at the point where, you know, I need to always challenge myself and push myself to a point to where I can say, no, you can do this.
Yeah.
And then leaving the gym say, I did it. Or leaving the gym say, yeah, okay, I've thought this through. Because also the gym for me is a place where I think through a lot of things.
Yeah, 100%. Coming back to the previous point, I feel like we live in a very judgmental society.
Yeah.
Like, people don't want to open up to their elders, to their dads, parents, whatever the case is, because they're going to be judged, and they're probably going to, especially to like friends or anyone really, because we have the thought that, okay, they're going to spread all that to other people, blah, blah, blah. Because I don't think we live in a society where people respect those anymore. People love to gossip. People love to spread things just to have conversational basis. Yeah. Do you think that's one of the reasons why people nowadays don't open up? Because I know for a fact, I don't usually open up to people anymore because I know it's going to go to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. So people, men in particular, we just cocoon up. And then that's why maybe we die young, because everything's just in us and we just explode one day and then we die from a heart attack.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's important for people of influence and parents, you know, to look at the generational characteristics. So you have your Gen Zs versus your baby boomers, and you need to look at what are the outlying characteristics that they share, and that will assist you in how to deal with them. So for me, when I hear, I just don't want to be judged, I understand it, but that's not a part of my reality. When I was growing up, when I became a Muslim, if I was afraid of being judged, I wouldn't have become a Muslim. You understand what I'm saying? So that, because I was the odd man out. You know what I'm saying? So I think particularly for masculinity, there's this whole concept within, you know, the Red Pill movement, or even outside the Red Pill movement, called Stoicism, right? And one of the concepts of Stoicism is being indifferent, right? I teach young men is that, look, we look at everything through an Islamic lens, meaning we look at what the Quran and Sunnah says about indifference, for example. So it is important to be indifferent. How does this indifference means that whether they say this or that about me, it really doesn't matter to me. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. You know, la yusmin wa la yughni min ju', right? They say it doesn't, you know, make one fat or make one's, you know, yughni min ju', makes them free from any type of hunger and things of that nature. So it's expressing that it doesn't affect me in any way. You know, when you look in the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they used to call him the debased one. And they would make a poem about him, mudhammam. But the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's response was, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with me, right? So if I express myself nowadays, you may want to have a second thought on whether you want to express that online on social media, because you have to know yourself. Will you read the comments? When people come to you and say, yo, man, people are saying that, will it affect you? Then you stay away from that, right? And you work on the fact of, okay, I trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I have this opinion, it's not haram. Or if I say this, it's not haram, which is my first priority. I'm doing nothing wrong. Okay? And then also, the way that I'm saying it may need to take importance to that. That is mature and masculine.
Mm.
But when the repercussions come, I don't let that affect me because I have to go back to my core again. Oh Allah, you turn to Allah. You ask Allah, is this the right thing to do? Istikhara. What's the best out of the situation? This is masculinity, right? And in the end of the day, you're indifferent to that. And that indifference is power. When you don't respond to people, that's a level of power. Extreme power, right? So we go on and on with this, but that is I think in this society where people are worried about what everyone else is going to say, there is a point to where you don't care what people say. Only the people that are valuable to you, you care what they say.
That's actually a very, very fair point, particularly in this era of social media and whatnot, where you shouldn't really care about what each and every one of your followers or whoever it is says about you, because they don't really matter in any way. You're encouraging us to channel and to celebrate our masculinity, but then in today's world you have this sort of toxic masculinity and all these things are spoken about as well. How do we sort of reconcile between the two? How do we balance between the two, where on one side, Islamically and through your teachings as well, it's said, okay, celebrate the fact that you're a man, celebrate your masculinity, be that alpha personality, be that for your family, for your friends, whatever it is. And then the flip side, toxic masculinity, don't be masculine, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, again, as Muslims, you have to look at, okay, who's saying that? Right? So the term toxic masculinity, where did it emerge from? Do we look at them as a source of guidance, whether secular or otherwise? You see that it emerged from certain psychologists and certain agencies, organizations. But then when they say aggression is inherently toxic, that's where we say no. Because we see the Prophet ﷺ acknowledge it, but it's about how you channel it. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الشَّدِيدُ مَنْ يَمْلِكُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ. He acknowledges that the one will be angry, but they have to know how to control it. It's a matter of self-control via channeling. Right? So you will find people that will say, okay, it's toxically masculine. They don't want their children to get into sports because they might break their arm. They may bleed. No, we say that's a part of the process because that's risk. And this was something that took place throughout history, rites of passage. In certain cultures, you had to go out to the jungle and you had to kill an animal and bring back the head. So that's risk. Your life is on the line for a greater purpose, for your tribe, for your people to see that, okay, you have enough testicular fortitude to go out and to do what needs to be done to maintain the integrity of your people. From them, your mother, so on. So that level of risk is very important for a man. And that is what breeds, that's a quality of leadership. So I think when it comes to, looking at the term toxic masculinity, firstly, who's saying it and who are they to say it? Not in an insulting fashion. Who are you to say that masculinity is toxic? And those that say, no, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity, exude your masculinity. Yes, be strong, be in your frame, right? Who's saying that? You have to look at who's saying it first, and then from there, the credibility can.
Would you say Andrew Tate is toxic?
No.
Really?
I won't say that he's toxic. I'll say that a lot of what he's saying coincides with masculinity, the way he's saying it. Now, some things, yes, was toxic. Like women are your property, and the logic behind it could make sense. This phone that I have authority over it, therefore it's my property, right? Those words can be clickbaity, and I think that was a motive of his, right? But when he tells people to work hard, when he acknowledges the fact of having a wife and having a family, and the greatest thing that a woman should value is family, and one of the greatest things that a man should value is establishment of families, this is totally masculine. Forget masculine. This coincides with Islam.
Yeah.
So when we look at whatever he says, we weigh it against the Quran and the Sunnah. Andrew Tate, Rollo Tomasi, The Rock, Kevin Hart, the Pope, it doesn't matter. We weigh it against the Quran and the Sunnah, right? So that is what is important. So I wouldn't say that he is toxic. No, I would not say that. I would say some of the rhetoric and the way that he said it could be understood as toxic. But a lot of his core message is masculine excellence, which is shown throughout tenets that are Islamic.
Some of the examples that you shared with us today take us back to what we'd like to call probably traditional roles of men. So protecting, providing, those sorts of things. In today's world, women now share a lot of that. The provision and everything else like that, women do the same as men.
Exactly.
So now all of a sudden you used to have this clear delineation between the role of a man and the purpose of a man, the role of a woman and the purpose of a woman. And now you have this convergence between the two. Again, for today's Muslim man, how does he navigate that, and how does he balance between that, and how does he not get too sort of caught up in all of these sorts of things? Because we're seeing a lot of our brothers now, capitulate under that pressure.
Yeah, so I mean, subhanAllah, even though we see protect and provide, I forgot who it was, it's saying, with police officers in supermarkets, who needs men? Right? There's no need for men. Police officers, supermarkets, good, I'm good. Understanding the core of the relationship between Adam and Eve, right? That there is something that, again, and this goes back to the ultimate purpose of life, which is to submit and surrender to Allah via the framework that He's given you. So when you look at submit and surrender to Allah, Allah has created each and every single one of us with that fitrah. We have to start from the concept of our natural inclination, the self. If you don't start from there, you're doomed. You're going to fall victim to something or some ism, and you won't have an answer to this question. We as Muslims start from a spiritual, metaphysical realm, and we shouldn't have any shame. Even in a secular gathering, we should let them know, well, it ultimately comes back to a metaphysical source. That God has given each and every single one of us what is called the fitrah, the natural inclination. Then you explain what that is. So when you're looking at this element or this issue of what was it again? You were mentioning, it's on the tip of my tongue, about
the roles.
The roles, yeah, the roles of male and female. How women don't need men, or because of they're able to financially provide for themselves. We forget the whole element of companionship. I know this is Kevin Samuels. I'm familiar with Kevin Samuels. He's kind of one of the godfathers of the manosphere. When they say, okay, I don't need a man, he'll say, okay, die alone with your dog. Right? And that's how many do we see with the dog? And the dog is a symbolization of something.
Yeah.
Everyone needs a companion, man. Natural. We're called insan. And the verb comes from uns, which means a level of companionship. There's an anthropological scholar in his book Al-Muqaddimah. What's the name of the book? What's the author of Muqaddimah? One of the books of great books, Ibn Khaldun, the sociology, right? He says, an insanu madaniyun bit-tab'. He said, mankind is naturally a social person. How will you know you're beautiful unless there is a certain standard that has been given by human beings, right? If you are on an island alone, you wouldn't know, right? So when we talk about this element of women feeling that they could be alone, if the man is indifferent, he says, okay, fine, go. I know I will find someone that will value my masculine frame and energy. But it's important for men to embody that. Because it's a lot of it is energy. When you embody that masculine frame and energy with indifference, with strength, with honor, with integrity, with respect, with love, in a masculine way. See, all these that I mentioned, integrity, strength, honor, women can possess this too, but it's in a feminine way. That's what we miss. A lot of these are shared characteristics, but the manifestation will be in a naturally feminine way, naturally masculine way. So when women profess that, we have to even dissect that particular woman that says that, and why is she saying that? And maybe some trauma that was faced by men in her family. Her brothers were losers. Her brothers didn't take care of her. She was the oldest, or she was the youngest, and her father and brothers were not around. So she's used to doing things for herself, right? But she's never had the male energy protector and things of that nature. So, with young Muslim men, again, they trust in Allah, and they know that Allah will provide me with a wife. As a matter of fact, with this predestination, it's already written for me. It's just a matter of me doing what I'm supposed to do and be responsible and fulfill my obligation towards Allah and towards society and humanity and towards His creation, basically. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide you with the one that is suitable for you.
Yeah, that's great, because it's going to sound stupid, but you sound like a religious Andrew Tate. everything's much more polished. I feel like, but I don't think these will go viral though. He knows how to make that rubbish go viral.
Yeah.
But no, I 100% do agree with you. Before we wrap things up, Mozzie, you have any last questions? Yep. So Chef, the way we end the podcast over here is we ask 10 out of interest questions, which is 10 rapid fire questions. You could answer them as fast or as slow as you want. So you ready?
Yeah.
First question: favorite date activity with your spouse?
Favorite date activity with your spouse? Walking in nature and talking.
Mm.
Yeah.
Favorite Muslim scholar of today?
Favorite Muslim scholar of today? Man. Favorite Muslim scholar of today? There's more than one, man. It's hard because it's in different realms. Like you have Sheikh Abdullah Yusuf, Sudani. You have Muhammad Hassan Walid Diddu. You have Mustafa Al-Adawi, Abu Ishaq Al-Hawaini. These are the ones that immediately come up to me now.
You can't pick one.
I'll say Abdul Hayy Yusuf.
Yeah.
Abdul
Okay.
Hayy Yusuf.
Favorite Sahaba and why?
Oh, that's harder, man. Oh man. Because of the context, I don't mean to sound cliche. Umar ibn al-Khattab.
Yeah.
Because of his, I don't even like to say humble masculinity. I'll just say masculinity because he was humble, which is a part of masculinity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, I don't know if you're familiar with Hatim al-Hajj.
Yes.
You know, his whole argument with not even saying Islamic finance.
Mm.
He's not a big fan of saying Islamic finance. He just finance because I think it's more of Islamifying something. We create our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So I don't want to say humble masculinity. No, masculinity is that.
Mm.
Therefore, we're owning the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Favorite hadith?
Oh man, this is no, because I have a curriculum and there's a lot of milestone of hadith. I'll just use this one. It's more of a hadith of hope. خير الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل. The most beloved actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or best actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are those that are consistent even if they were a little bit. Discipline over motivation.
Yeah. What do you think is the key to living a good life?
The key to living a good life. Contentment with struggle.
I see it.
Yeah.
I see it. Favorite food?
Yemeni.
Excuse me?
Yemeni cuisine. Well, favorite
Oh,
food.
Yemeni cuisine.
Favorite food. Man, that's hard. Okay, I'll say probably madrout.
Is that Yemeni?
It's Yemeni.
Yemeni.
Yeah.
Must have you heard of that one?
It's going to be a mixture of rice and meat.
Yeah.
Predictable.
And I'm not a rice guy, but the way they do it, akhi, astaghfirullah, man. You just eat too much, man. It's like, astaghfirullah.
What was it again?
Madrout. It's basically pressure cooking chicken and rice to where the rice absorbs the flavor of the chicken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. What motivates you the most?
Older, handicapped people doing what I should be doing. Like there's one guy that has a stroke. He's in the gym, walking up and down the stairs, just like, okay, get off your bleep.
Yeah.
You know, come on.
Yeah.
You see people in the masjid praying witr. Like, what do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's like, okay, they know their time is coming, and you have time, and you should be doing that,
Mm.
and you're not.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
come on, what are you really doing?
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is signs of, like, some of them it's signs of regret, and time is coming close. So I'm trying to, you know.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Deepest fear.
Fear.
Your deepest fear is fear. That's a first.
Yeah.
What advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
18. It's funny. It's qadr of Allah. Learn more about money.
Learn more about money.
Understand money. Especially as a black man. Understand money.
Yeah.
And I would say business, but I would say ultimately money. When you understand money, it liberates you because you'll know how to appropriately deal with people, yourself and people.
Yeah. No, I agree. Last question. If you could ask the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, any question, what would it be?
Is this the way to do it?
Is this the way to do it?
Yeah. Is it like this? Is this the way to do it? Am I doing it right? Are you pleased with what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's what I would ask. Like,
That's actually a really good question.
yeah.
Not gonna lie, that's actually a really good question. And then he's gonna be like, nah.
Because
Give you
we
a
all
whole-
we all seem to think we're doing it right,
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
and it's
Subhanallah.
scary to think if we're all wrong about it.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
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 That's a
Fair
really
point.
good question.
Subhanallah.
But on that note, Sheikh, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
No,
the
man,
Adam
it's been
Interest
great, man.
It's been a good chat.
Yeah,
you
great.
bamboozled my mind with the way you answer your things. It's
Oh,
very
okay.
different.
Oh,
It's very unique. The different perspective. Honestly, it's a very different perspective, and the story of you reverting was incredible as well.
yeah.
Your story is very interesting. Again, like you just don't know. Like anyone could get hidayah. It's crazy. Like you could you could be anything, and Allah could just give it to you. You just don't know.
Yeah. Subhanallah.
But yeah, on that note, we wish you the best. Nothing but success. And barakah come your way to your family. Didn't ask, do you have kids?
Yes.
How many?
4. I mean, you're talking about in Dallas.
Anyway.
It's all masculinity thing. Sometimes I ask, I'm like, okay, what zip code are you particularly? You have to be very clear. You got to keep the straight face. That's the best part. When you keep the straight face, you have to look from the side like, is their face changing? Somebody asked me yesterday, did you pray Isha? And I said, yeah, I prayed yesterday. And I walked away. And they're like,
It's like you just troll people for a living. Jacked up shit.
I'm a
troll
showist,
people.
man. I'm a real troublemaker. My wife and my daughter sometimes kick me out the house. I'm just like a real troublemaker, man. I like podcasts, man. This is my first time with like 6 podcasts in a day or something. I like conversation. It's good.